My parents sold me to a billionaire dog for millions. My parents forced me to marry a billionaire dog in exchange for millions. I'm Evelyn, just 16 years old, but in all these years, love has never been part of my life. Being the youngest of 3 daughters, I've always felt invisible. Because my parents wanted a son badly, they resented me when I was born a girl. Their hatred ran so deep that I became nothing but a servant in my own home. While the rest of my family ate together at the table, I was left outside, eating from broken plates and drinking from a cracked cup. I was the only child who never attended school, church, or even family gatherings. In fact, only a few close relatives even knew I existed because my parents kept me hidden away. My sisters treated me worse than an annoying pest, and over time their cruelty made me numb. I had accepted this was my fate until something unimaginable happened. One day, my sister Rebecca, who is just older than me, fell very ill. Despite my parents spending almost everything they had, her health only got worse. The doctors informed us that she needed a heart transplant, but the cost was far beyond what our family could afford. One evening, my dad was sitting in the living room, heartbroken, watching the news when a startling headline suddenly appeared on the screen. A wealthy man was offering a large sum of money in return for a young girl to marry his dog. That moment marked the real start of my nightmare. At first, I thought it was a joke. Who would ever agree to marry a dog? But when I saw the excitement in my father's eyes, I knew he was serious. That night, my parents spent hours quietly talking in their room. The following morning, they called me into the room. My mother spoke in a softer tone than usual, almost kindly. "Evelyn," she said, forcing a smile. "Would you consider doing something to make us proud?" she asked. I didn't respond. I had learned not to trust her gentle words. My father made no effort to hide his true feelings. "You're going to get married," he said. "This way, we'll finally have enough money to save your sister." I was confused. Married? To whom? No man had ever paid me any attention, and my parents never let me go outside. Then my mother said it plainly. "To a dog." I laughed. It was a bitter, dry laugh. I thought surely they were joking. Surely even they wouldn't stoop that low. But their expression stayed serious. My father clenched his jaw, clearly annoyed by my reaction. "You should be thankful," he barked. They said I'd finally serve a purpose. Though tears stung my eyes, I refused to let them fall. Softly, I whispered, "I'm not a beast." A scoff came from my mother. "Yet you eat outside just like one." It felt as if the air was being squeezed from my lungs. My heart raced wildly, and the small room seemed to shrink around me. All my life, I'd been treated like I was worthless, and now I was being sold like an object. Shaking my head, I said, "No, I won't do this." Before I could finish, my father's hand struck my face hard. I collapsed onto the floor, my cheek burning painfully. "You don't have a choice," he growled. I wanted to run, scream, and beg, but I knew it wouldn't matter. No one was coming to help me. That night, they sold me. 2 days later, outside our house, a black SUV pulled up. A tall, well-dressed man stepped out. Without looking at me, he handed a briefcase to my father, and just like that, I was taken away. As I was pushed into the back seat of that sleek black SUV, I understood my fate was sealed. The man who came to collect me barely spoke a word. His expression was cold and unreadable as he motioned for me to get inside. As the car pulled away, I turned to look back at the home I once knew, silently hoping someone would chase after us and stop this nightmare. My parents, however, remained standing at the door, counting money with satisfaction written all over their faces. I wasn't able to try running away the night before because my father had locked me inside the storeroom with heavy locks. It was only when the black SUV arrived that I was finally freed. Tears rolled down my cheeks, but I pressed my lips together to hold back the sobs. Crying wouldn't make a difference. The journey was long and stretched on for hours. I had no clue where we were going and was too scared to ask. The man sitting beside me, whom I guessed was the driver's boss, eventually broke the silence. "You must follow the rules," he said, his voice firm and commanding. "No questions, no resistance." My whole body trembled as I looked at him. "Please," I whispered quietly. "I am a human being." He didn't even react. "You are whatever we say you are." A knot twisted in my stomach as I wondered what place I was headed to. Finally, we arrived at a huge mansion, its golden gates opening automatically as we approached. The place was magnificent, more elegant than anything I had ever seen, but instead of feeling amazed, dread filled my heart. When the car stopped, 2 guards came forward and dragged me out before I could even process what was happening. They led me down a grand hallway, and my bare feet sank into the soft carpet. The air smelled rich, fresh flowers, polished wood, pure wealth. Then I saw him. On a velvet cushion in the center of the enormous living room sat the Doga, huge, black-coated creature with piercing blue eyes. It looked neat and well cared for, its collar sparkling with gold. It gave off a strange feeling of power, like it understood exactly what was going on. The man who brought me here stepped forward and gave a slight bow to the dog. "Master, your bride has come." The world spun around me. Bride? To this? An animal? Before I could shout, someone grabbed me from behind with a grip like steel. A cloth was pressed over my mouth, and a sharp smell of chemicals filled my nose. Darkness took over completely. When I woke, my head throbbed and my body felt heavy. My arms and legs were free, but the soft surface beneath me told me I was lying on a fancy bed. The air smelled like roses and something expensive perfume, maybe. I sat up too fast, and a wave of dizziness hit me. My sight blurred for a moment, then cleared to show a huge bedroom. Gold-trimmed mirrors lined the walls. The ceiling was tall and held a chandelier that twinkled like stars. But none of that mattered, because at the foot of the bed, staring at me with those cold blue eyes, was the dog. I backed away, pressing myself against the headboard. My heart pounded hard in my chest as fear took hold. The dog didn't move. It just stared. Its eyes oddly smart, almost human. The door creaked open, and a young woman in a maid's uniform came in. She looked to be in her early 20s, with sharp features and a cold stare. She brought a tray of food and placed it on the bedside table. "You will eat," she said, her voice flat. I shook my head. "I want to go home," she laughed bitterly. "You don't have a home anymore." Tears filled my eyes, but I blinked them away. "Please," I whispered. "This isn't right." The maid's face didn't change. "Eat," she said again. "The master hates weakness." Hearing master made my stomach churn as I looked at the dog. "Who is the master?" I asked, my voice trembling. The maid just smirked and walked away, locking the door behind her. I was stuck. I looked back at the dog, feeling chills all over. My whole body shook as I whispered the question I feared the most. "What do they want from me?" To my horror, the dog smiled. I froze. My breath caught as I saw its lips curl in a way that looked too human. Fear crawled under my skin. Dogs don't smile. I forced myself to look away, my mind racing. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe the fear and tiredness were making me see things that weren't real. I had to find a way out. Gently, I eased off the bed, my bare feet sinking softly into the carpet below. The dog remained motionless. but its gaze felt like it was burning into my skin. Ignoring that stare, I tiptoed over to the door and pressed my ear against the wooden surface. Silence filled the room. As I reached for the handle, I hoped it wasn't locked. The moment my fingers touched the metal, a clicking sound echoed. From behind me came a low growl that froze me in place. I turned my head slowly to face the source. Standing now, the dog's bright blue eyes were fixed on me. It tilted its head slightly, almost as if it found my fear amusing. Then it suddenly spoke. "You won't be leaving." A scream rose in my throat, but no sound escaped. My legs gave out, and I fell onto the floor. Dogs aren't supposed to talk. This was impossible, yet it had just happened. Desperately, I shook my head, trying to wake from this nightmare. My breath came fast and shallow as I backed away. "No, this isn't real," I whispered to myself. The dog, or whatever, it waist-tilted its head further, smiling wider. "You belong to me now." Tears stung my eyes as I asked, "What are you?" The air thickened, making it hard to breathe. Above, the chandelier flickered, casting strange shadows on the walls. Right before me, the dog started to transform. Its coat darkened, and its body stretched and contorted into something disturbingly human. Bones popped, limbs extended, and within moments, the creature was no longer a dog but a man. A tall, handsome man with sharp features, glowing blue eyes, and a sinister grin. I couldn't catch my breath or think straight. He moved closer, his presence overwhelming. Then he spoke softly, his voice deep and smooth. "Shall we begin our honeymoon?" Darkness swirled in my vision. Then I lost consciousness. When I awoke, I wasn't in the luxurious bedroom anymore. The air was damp and cold. The scent of roses had faded, replaced by a musty smell of old wood and stone. My body ached, and my hands trembled as I sat up. I found myself in a dim room. The walls were made of dark bricks, and a single candle flickered on a nearby table. At the far end stood a heavy wooden door, locked from the outside. Fear surged through me. Where was this place? What had they done to me? I tried to recall what happened before I blacked out. The talking dog, the transformation, the man with glowing blue eyes. Had I lost my mind? A familiar, deep voice interrupted my thoughts. "You passed out," it said smoothly. I spun around so quickly I almost fell. There he was, the man who had been a dog leaning against the wall, watching me with that same unsettling smile. His dark hair was slightly messy, and he wore a sleek black suit, looking every bit like a nobleman. But those ice-natural, glowing blue eyes caught my attention. I pressed myself against the cold brick wall, my heart beating fast. "What are you?" I whispered hoarsely. His smile stretched wider. "Your husband." My stomach twisted in fear. "No," I whispered. "This can't be real." "Not real?" He chuckled softly. "You'll discover that reality is far stranger than you imagine, little bride." Tears welled up in my eyes. "Please, just let me go." His face grew dark, the amusement fading away. He walked slowly toward me, every step measured, until I could feel the unnatural cold radiating from him. "You were sold to me," he murmured. "You belong to me now." I shook my head fiercely. "I am not a possession. I don't belong to anyone." He reached out and gently traced a finger along my cheek. His touch was icy, too cold to bear. I flinched, but he held me still. "Humans," he said thoughtfully. "Always so convinced they have freedom of choice." His hand dropped to his side as he stepped back, his gaze unreadable. "You'll understand soon enough." Then, without a word more, he turned and moved toward the door. With a snap of his fingers, the door creaked open on its own. He glanced back over his shoulder. "Rest now, wife. Your training begins tomorrow." Behind him, the door slammed shut, and darkness enveloped me completely. Slowly, time dragged by, every second stretching out forever. I had one simple plan in mind. Once the door opened again, I would make my escape. Where I went didn't matter. I wasn't afraid to die trying. Being stuck with that thing was unbearable. Sitting on the bed's edge, my heart raced and my muscles tensed, ready to jump. Then I heard the click. The door slowly swung open. There was no way I was staying. I bolted. Racing past the maid who entered, I shoved her aside as my feet pounded on the cold stone floor. She gasped in surprise, but I didn't stop moving. My eyes darted through the dim hallway, desperately searching for an exit. The mansion looked like a maze, with tall walls, golden chandeliers, and corridors twisting endlessly. Still, I kept running. Just as I spotted what I thought was a large door ahead, maybe the way out, a shadow shifted. Before I could react, he appeared. The man. My so-called husband, the monster. He hadn't given chase. He simply materialized. I skidded to a stop, breathing hard. Calmly, he stood there, his bright blue eyes glowing faintly in the dimness. Tilting his head, he studied me like I was some amusing little creature. "Going somewhere, wife?" His voice was smooth and eerily relaxed. I didn't reply. My body begged me to run, but my legs refused to obey. I realized I'd made a terrible mistake. A terrible, terrible mistake. He moved a step closer. Then another one followed. My throat went dry, and my heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst as I backed away. "I'm not staying here," I said with a shaky voice. "I'd rather die." His face showed no change. A slight smile played at the corners of his mouth, like he was amused. "Is that how you feel?" He moved so fast it was hard to see. Before I could even blink, he was standing behind me. His hand, cold as ice, gripped my wrist, and a whisper touched my ear, sending chills down my spine. "Let me show you what happens if you disobey." Darkness faded quickly as I felt myself being pulled. The force wasn't human hands, but something else, something powerful. My limbs felt like they weighed nothing, and my head spun wildly. When I hit the hard surface, I gasped for air, my body shaking from the cold. I blinked fast to clear my vision. The mansion was gone. I found myself in a worse place. The air was thick and damp, filled with distant howls. Above me, the sky looked strange, a swirling blend of black and purple, without stars or moon. Flickering, glowing symbols shone in the distance like tiny lights. I tried to stand, but the ground was wet and uneven beneath me. It felt like dirt, but not quite. It moved beneath my fingers like it was alive. A low growl rumbled behind me. My breath caught. Slowly, I turned around. There he was. But he wasn't a man anymore. Now he stood on all fours, his big black fur shining under the strange sky. His blue eyes glowed with something old, something wrong. He wasn't just a dog. He was a huge beast, bigger than any animal I'd ever seen. When he spoke, his voice sounded strange and mixed, like many voices talking at once. "You think you can escape me?" I shook, my heart pounding hard. His shape flickered. One moment, he was the giant beast, towering over me with sharp teeth shining. The next moment, he was a man again, crouched before me. His black suit was neat, like nothing had changed, except his eyes. They stayed unnatural. "You belong to me, Evelyn." His voice was softer now, but still scary. "I'll show you that." Tears stung my eyes. "Please," I whispered. "Please let me go." His lips curved in a way that wasn't quite a smile. "I am releasing you." Before I could respond, the ground beneath me split apart. A powerful force dragged me down, swallowing me whole as the beast watched, its glowing eyes never blinking. Then, I woke up. Panting and screaming, I found myself back in the mansion, lying on the same bed as if I had never left, but the sheets were dirty. And at the foot of the bed, looking at me with strange amusement, was the beast. Still in his dog form, still grinning. Then everything faded to black. Darkness took over completely. Had I been dreaming all this time? I thought about staring at the dog. Suddenly, the door swung open, and the man who brought me here earlier stepped inside. He bowed deeply to the dog. Without a word, the beast turned and padded out, disappearing into the shadows. The man straightened and looked at me. "I know you're frightened," he said finally, his voice steady but firm. I sat frozen on the bed, my heart racing. "But I promise," he continued, "if you love him completely and he turns into a decent man, you will be greatly rewarded. Then the choice will be yours, whether to stay with him or not." His eyes darkened slightly. "But you must follow certain rules." Hardly able to swallow, my throat felt dry and tight. "Rules?" The man came closer, his face unreadable. "If you break them, there will be consequences." I clenched my fists tightly. "What? What rules are those?" He studied me for a moment, as if deciding if I was worthy to know. Then he spoke. "First, you must never try to leave this place again." Pain tightened my chest. "Second, you must never refuse him." A shiver ran through me. "Third, under no circumstances look at him when he is changing." The word changing caught my breath. His gaze grew darker. "If these rules are broken, you won't need to worry about whether to stay or leave, because you won't be alive to make the choice." A cold chill ran down my spine. I wanted to scream, argue, and demand answers, but I couldn't. Deep inside, I knew this was no warning. Between us, silence stretched thick and heavy, making it hard to breathe. My fingers twisted the sheets as my pulse hammered in my ears. Questions wanted to spill out. Why me? Why these rules? What would happen if I broke them? But I already knew I wouldn't survive. The man sighed, his sharp eyes softening just a little. "You might think of this place as a prison," he said, "but it doesn't have to be. If you obey and gain his favor, life here will be easier. Not good, not free, just bearable." A lump formed in my throat, but I nodded anyway. "What else could I do?" He turned toward the door, clearly satisfied. "Rest now. He will expect you at dinner." He didn't wait for my reply. Behind him, the door softly clicked shut, leaving me, Evelyn, alone with my thoughts. Trembling, I stared at the room around me. It was luxurious, far beyond anything I'd known at home, yet it felt like a beautifully decorated cage. Still, it was better than my own family. I was no longer free. Claimed I knew I would face him again tonight at dinner. That thought sank deep inside me. Perhaps if I did as they wanted, loved him without question, and followed the rules, he would be free. And maybe, just maybe, I would be free too. That fragile hope held on tight. If there was even the smallest chance this nightmare could end, I had to try. But could I truly love a monster? Clenching my fists, I wondered. I had no choice but to try, because if freeing him was the only way out, I would do anything, even if it meant losing myself. That night, the mansion seemed colder than ever before. A maid entered my room quietly and hesitantly, laying a dress out for me. It was a deep red, smooth like silk, and way too fancy for someone like me. "You must wear this," she said softly, avoiding my eyes. I paused. What if I don't? She flinched, really flinched. That was all the answer I needed. Without a word, I put on the dress. It fit perfectly, like it was made just for me. The maid led me through endless hallways, each step heavier than the last. When we reached the dining room, my heart was pounding so hard I felt like I might faint. The room was grand. Huge chandeliers, velvet curtains, a long table set with shining silverware under candlelight. But I hardly noticed any of it because he was sitting at the far end of the table. He wasn't in his beast form now. He looked human, or close enough. His black hair was neatly combed, his sharp features unreadable. But those glowing blue eyes were the same ones that haunted my dreams the night before. Slowly, he stood up. "Come," he said. His voice sent a chill through me. I forced myself to move, each step feeling like I was walking into my own doom. Approaching the table, he pulled out the chair beside him. "Sit," he commanded. I hesitated before moving. A subtle amusement darkened his eyes, not anger, but something else. "You don't trust me," he stated without asking. Swallowing, I stayed silent. Should I trust him? His gaze flickered briefly. Then, unexpectedly, a deep, smooth laugh escaped him, sending a chill down my spine. "I guess you don't." I took a seat, my hands clenched tight in my lap. A heavy silence fell before he spoke once more. "Fear of me is good," he said, tilting his head. I frowned and asked, "Why?" A faint smirk appeared on his lips. "Because fear leads to understanding." I stiffened at his words. Understanding? How could I understand a monster? Slowly, he picked up his glass, swirled the dark liquid, and took a slow sip. He moved with slow, careful steps, like a predator watching its prey. Setting his glass down, he said, "You think I'm cruel, that I forced you here?" I clenched my fists under the table tightly. "Because you did?" I asked. His smile grew wider. "Yet, here you still are. You're wearing the dress I chose for you, sitting at my table, listening to what I say," he said. I swallowed hard, feeling like he was playing with me, twisting my reality like a cat with a mouse. Quietly, I said, "I have no choice." He leaned in, his glowing blue eyes boring into me. "Don't you?" His gaze made my breath catch. I wanted to look away, to escape, but I couldn't move. Something about how he spoke and stared kept me frozen. He breathed out slowly. "You will have a choice, Evelyn," he said. Hearing my name made me flinch. He noticed. His face changed for a moment to something I couldn't read, then went back to normal. "When the time comes," he said more softly, "you will decide. This isn't just about mates for you too." I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat tightening. What if I decide to walk away? A slow, knowing smile played across his lips. "Then you'll need to set me free before that can happen." The atmosphere in the room shifted, as if an invisible weight was pressing down on my skin. My heart began to race. This was the moment I'd been hoping for, the chance at freedom. Yet, the way he said those words sent a chill crawling down my spine. I asked cautiously, "What exactly do you mean by that?" Instead of answering immediately, he raised his glass, took a slow drink, and then set it down. At last, he spoke. "You need to love me first," he said, his voice smooth like silk. "But before that, you have to eat." He slid a bowl of fried chicken toward me and poured chilled fruit juice from the jug into my glass. I found myself staring blankly, lost in thought as his words echoed in my mind. "If you don't eat, wifey, and people see you looking awkward, they might think I'm not treating you right," he joked with a soft laugh. His voice brought me back to the moment. After a pause, I picked up the fork and spoon, and began eating slowly. He kept watching me the whole time. His intense blue eyes never looked away, causing a prickling unease on my skin. The way he sat there so composed, calm, and undeniably handsome made it harder to focus. I wanted to ask why he wasn't eating, why he only observed me, but I stayed silent. I had been told never to question him, so I focused on my meal, pretending not to notice how he kept refilling my glass with water and juice, ensuring I had everything I needed. Still, his bright blue eyes remained fixed on me. When I finished, he stood and held out his hand to me. "Come," he said, his voice calm but firm. I paused for a moment before putting my hand in his. His grip was strong but gentle as he guided me through the big halls of the mansion. Outside, the air was fresh and cool, and the night sky sparkled with stars as we walked toward a shiny black car waiting in the driveway. To my surprise, he went ahead and opened the door for me. "After you, my lady," he said with a playful smile. I blinked, surprised, but stepped inside and sank into the soft leather seat. He walked around the car and slid into the driver's seat next to me. The engine purred quietly as he drove onto the winding road. The ride was silent, but somehow felt comfortable. I kept stealing looks at him, his sharp jaw, how his silver hair shone in the moonlight, and those always alert blue eyes. After a short drive, we arrived at a stunning garden, nothing like I had ever seen before. Long rows of colorful flowers stretched out forever, their petals glowing softly under the lantern light. A cool breeze brought the sweet smell of roses and jasmine, wrapping around me like a warm hug. I got out of the car and took a deep breath. After what seemed like forever, I finally felt a calmness inside me. A gentle smile spread across my face as I wandered through the garden, my fingers lightly touching the soft petals. The colors, the scents, and the soft rustle of leaves around mate was all incredibly beautiful. Glancing to the side, I spotted him sitting on a wooden bench beneath a large blooming tree. His body was relaxed, one arm casually resting on the bench's back, but his eyes stayed fixed on me. It felt like he was silently guarding me, watching carefully. The look in his eyes was nothing like the cold stares I was used to. It wasn't harsh or controlling. It was something completely different. A feeling of safety settled over me for the first time in ages. Then, out of nowhere, someone grabbed my arm roughly from behind and yanked me backward. My heart raced as I quickly turned, my breath catching in my throat. Even though it was early evening, the garden was almost empty. Confusion swept over me. Who here could possibly know me? I nervously faced the person, and there was Susan. Her dark eyes flashed with anger as she glared at me. "What are you doing here, huh?" she hissed, her voice full of spite. Susan had never treated me like a human being, let alone a sister. Every second in our parents' home reminded me how much she loathed me. When it was her turn to give me food, she would water it down or dump extra pepper on it and fill my cup with filthy water just to make me suffer. There she stood before me, her hatred just as fierce as ever. "Why are you just standing there, staring at me?" she sneered. "Looks like you've gotten greedy for money, leaving your worthless husband behind." My body stiffened and my fists clenched at my sides. I had been taught my whole life to stay silent. No matter the pain, I was never allowed to speak back. But not this time. A tall man approached us, his eyes shining with curiosity. "Is this the slave sister you mentioned?" he asked, smirking. Susan smiled sweetly and linked her arm with his. "Yes, dear. Pathetic, isn't she? A gold digger who can't even bear to see her animal husband. I bet she's wandering this garden looking for some handsome man to keep her entertained, since her husband can't." She laughed cruelly, but my patience snapped. "I can handle all the awful things you say about me," I said firmly. "But don't insult my husband. He might be cursed, but I chose to stay with him, and I won't let you disrespect him." Rage flashed in Susan's eyes. "How dare you talk back to me?" she hissed, raising her hand to slap me. I tensed, preparing for the familiar sting, but it never landed. Just as her hand was about to hit my cheek, a large, strong palm grabbed her wrist and twisted it. Susan gasped sharply and turned to see who stopped her. Standing tall beside us was a handsome man with piercing blue eyes. It was Jeffrey, my husband. Pain contorted Susan's face as Jeffrey's grip tightened on her wrist. For a moment, her arrogance faltered as she looked up at him, imposing, powerful, and unyielding. Under the soft garden lights, his blue eyes glowed faintly, cold and impossible to read. Jeffrey spoke smoothly but firmly. "You better lower your hand before you regret it." Susan gave a shaky laugh, trying to hide how uneasy she felt. "And who do you think you are, telling me what to do?" she snapped. Jeffrey's face stayed calm. He just tilted his head slightly, holding her wrist tight. "I'm someone you don't deserve to know," he replied. Susan shot back. "So you have the nerve to cheat on your useless husband. Mom and Dad will find out." Her boyfriend stepped forward, chest puffed up. "Husband or not, family business is none of your concern," he said arrogantly. Jeffrey turned to him with a calm but terrifying look. In a quick move, Jeffrey released Susan's wrist and stood between us. "I won't step in if you don't raise your hand against her," he said, slipping a protective arm around my waist. "I'm guarding what belongs to me." Susan's nostrils flared with fury. "Oh, so now you pretend to care? Is she your new pet?" Jeffrey smirked, amused rather than angry. "Maybe she is. And if you try to touch her again," he leaned in, voice low and threatening, "you won't have a hand left." For the first time, fear showed on Susan's face as she stepped back. Her boyfriend scoffed. "Come on, babe, this isn't worth it. Let's go." Before they left, Susan's gaze stayed on me, his blue eyes still burning from the confrontation. He stepped closer and spoke quietly. "I will never let anyone harm you, Evelyn. Not even your own family." I swallowed hard, unsure how to reply. Protection was something new to me. Feeling important was something I wasn't used to. A cool breeze blew through the garden, rustling the flowers. Jeffrey's expression softened as he took my hand gently. "Come with me," he said, leading me toward a wooden bench under a tree. "Stay here with me for a bit." I hesitated, but then settled down beside him. The air was filled with the scent of fresh flowers, which helped calm my nerves. From the corner of my eye, I noticed him looking straight ahead, relaxed, but clearly keeping an eye on me, like he was guarding me. We sat quietly for a long time. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, though. It felt safe. Finally, Jeffrey spoke up. "Do you like it here?" His question caught me off guard. "Yes," I answered softly. "It's really beautiful." He gave a small nod, clearly pleased. "That's good. I want you to enjoy moments like this." This time, I looked at him properly, taking in his face. The light in his blue eyes had softened, making him seem more human. He was still a Mysteria beast in a man's body. Still, being next to him felt safer than I ever felt at my own house. I whispered, "Jeffrey," before I could stop myself. He turned his head, meeting my gaze. "Yes?" I was nervous, twisting the fabric of my dress. I had so many questions and things I didn't understand, but all I could say was, "Thank you." A genuine smile finally spread across his face. For the first time ever, I smiled back. A few days later, those days were calm and peaceful. Besides the day he took me to the garden, I hadn't seen him at all. He wasn't anywhere around the mansion either. Every time I asked the maids about the boss, they gave me sad looks, like they wanted to say something but were too scared to tell me. Even though Jeffrey was gone, they treated me like a princess. But that night, while I was sitting by my window lost in thought, my door slowly opened. Nathan, Jeffrey's right-hand man, stood there, his face hard to read. "Good evening, Mom," he said, his voice calm but serious. "I'm sorry, but you have to come with me. There's something you need to see." A weird chill ran down my spine, but I nodded and quietly followed him. He led me through the dark hallways of the mansion, past places I knew, and into an area I'd never been before. The air felt colder. I smelled rust and something metallic, which made my stomach twist. At last, Nathan stopped in front of a big iron door. He took a deep breath and pushed it open. What I saw made me stop breathing. My heart raced as I stepped closer, my legs shaking. That's when I knew this was my first real test. My first scary mission to save Jeffrey. I saw him lying on the cold floor in the corner, not as a man, but fully turned into a dog. What scared me the most was how badly he looked, bruised and bleeding everywhere. Deep cuts covered almost all of his body, like he'd been attacked really badly. His blood was pooling on the floor next to him. His eyes were shut tight. His chest was rising and falling in quick, weak breaths. He was gasping for air and making soft groaning sounds from the pain. Panic hit me hard. "What happened to him?" I asked, my voice shaking. "He was attacked," Jeffrey said with a sigh, staring at Jeffrey's injuries. "He's already lost too much blood." I swallowed hard, feeling my throat tighten. "What can I do to save him? I don't want anything bad to happen." The words slipped out before I could stop them. I couldn't believe I cared this much. Nathan took a deep breath and ran his hand through his black hair. "It won't be easy, but you have to prove your loyalty to the boss. This is one of the few times he really needs you." I clenched my fists. "Tell me what to do," I urged. Nathan hesitated, then looked me in the eye. "You have to kiss his dog form. That's the only way to stop the bleeding and bring him back." My breath caught. A kiss? I looked down at Jeffrey, his hurt, shaking body. His fur was soaked in blood and his breathing was getting weaker every second. This was about more than just saving him. It was a way to prove that I wasn't here only because of some cruel fate. Maybe, just maybe, he mattered to me. My heart raced as I hesitated. "I wonder, what if it doesn't work?" I whispered softly. Jeffrey's face grew serious. "If it doesn't, he might not survive the night." A cold shiver ran through me at his words. I didn't wait any longer. Kneeling beside him, my hands trembled as I reached toward his face. Despite the wounds, his fur felt soft. The warmth from his body against my palm brought an unfamiliar ache. I closed my eyes and leaned in closer. Taking a deep breath, I gently kissed his muzzle. At first, there was no change. Then, a flash of golden light sparked where our lips met, spreading rapidly over Jeffrey's body like wildfire. Before my eyes, his wounds began to close. The bleeding stopped, his limbs twitched, and his breathing became steadier. The air around us thickened, swirling like a storm. I stepped back as his form started to shift. The fur disappeared, claws shrank, muscles stretched, and bones snapped back into place. And there he was, Jeffrey, back in human shape. His shirt was ripped, and his skin showed the spots where his wounds had just been. He breathed heavily, but was awake. His sharp blue eyes locked onto mine. He slowly sat up. In his gaze, I saw confusion mixed with pain, and something deeper. I opened my mouth to speak, but he reached out to me first. In one quick move, he pulled me close. His shirt was ripped, and his skin showed where his wounds had been just moments before. He was still breathing hard but awake. His arms held me tight strong, but shaking a little. I could feel the warmth of his skin and his heartbeat steady against my cheek. For a moment, we didn't say a word. I wasn't sure if he was holding me because he needed support or because he didn't want to let go. Then, in a quiet whisper, he said, "You saved me." Something squeezed in my chest. I pulled back a little to look at him. His usually sharp, confident eyes were softer, filled with something I couldn't quite understand. "You were dying," I said softly. I couldn't just stand there and watch. "You know, I thought you'd be disgusted to kiss a dog, but you weren't," Jeffrey whispered, his warm breath brushing my ear. "I wasn't." "Even if I was, I couldn't just watch you in so much pain and do nothing," I replied. He pulled me even closer, holding me tighter. "Boss, you need to take a bath," Nathan interrupted. Jeffrey sighed and let me go. I helped him stand while Nathan led him away. I went back to my room, took a shower, and changed into a simple floral dress. Since I moved into the mansion, the maids had filled my closet with clothes that fit mattresses, shoes, and even underwear. It still felt weird being treated like someone important. After I got dressed, I lay down and closed my eyes for just a second when my little button phone started ringing. I didn't have to look to know who was calling. Only one person used this number. I sighed, slipping the phone under my pillow, but the ringing wouldn't stop. It kept ringing loud and annoying. Finally, I got fed up and answered. "So, you're starting to act rebellious now, huh?" My mom's voice shouted through the speaker. I didn't say a word. "Am I not talking to you, Evelyn?" She yelled once more. I tightened my jaw. "Did you call just to yell at me? If that's the case, hang up." There was silence. For the first time in my life, I talked back. She was probably stunned. All my life, I'd been trained not to question, not to speak unless spoken to, and never challenge my parents' seven when they were wrong. I was always the one who got blamed. "So, did you call just to insult me, or what?" I asked, my voice colder. "Such nerve," she spat. "Don't think that just because you married that beast, I can't still punish you." I shut my eyes, bracing for whatever nonsense came next. "Anyway," she continued, "Susan told me you've been hanging out in the city with some other guys. Listen up. Don't do anything stupid that'll make those dog owners angry enough to want their money back, or else." Her voice got lower. "I'll cut out your tongue and feed it to the owls." I swallowed hard, holding the phone tighter. "And another thing," she said. "We need more money. Rebecca just got back from the hospital and needs proper food." "Ask your dog husband for more," my dad's voice said in the background. "Or better yet, sneak into his treasure room and steal some." "I'll send you the account number." Something inside me broke. Tears slid quietly down my cheeks. I always knew the truth, but hearing it so clearly and coldly still hurt. To my parents, I was nothing, just a way to get what they wanted. I held the phone so tight my knuckles turned white. Their words kept ringing in my head. Their selfishness felt like a knife cutting through me. I wiped my tears fast. I wouldn't let them hear me cry. "I won't do it," I said, my voice calm even though I felt like a storm inside. My mother's voice was sharp, filled with disbelief. "What did you just say?" she asked. "I won't do it." I said again, this time louder. "I'm done being your pawn. I won't steal from Jeffrey, and I won't ask him for money." A heavy silence followed. Then my father's voice thundered in the background. "You ungrateful child. After all we've done for you, this is how you repay us." "All you've done for me?" I laughed bitterly. "You mean selling me, treating me like a beast, making me feel worthless every day? You have no right to speak to us that way." "How dare you?" my mother hissed. "I dare," I replied, my voice trembling but strong. "This will be the last time you ever call me." Then I ended the call. My hands trembled as the phone hit the bed. My breathing was uneven. It was finally done. For the first time in my life, I stood up to them. I felt a little scared, but mostly free. Taking a deep breath, I pushed away the pain and stood. I needed to clear my mind. Maybe some fresh air on the balcony would help. I stepped into the cool night, unaware of a figure watching me from the shadows. Jeffrey's blue eyes shone softly in the moonlight. I whispered, "How much did you hear?" He stepped closer and said, "Enough." There was something in his gaze I couldn't quite read. "Enough to see you finally chosen yourself," he added. I swallowed hard, unsure of what to say next. Then, unexpectedly, he reached out and gently tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. With a soft voice, he said, "I'm proud of you." For the first time, I felt a warmth inside, a sense of safety. It felt like I wasn't just Evelyn anymore. His words wrapped around my heart like a comforting blanket. "I'm proud of you." No one had ever said that to me honestly before, not without expecting something back. For a moment, I forgot the call. I forgot the pain. I was just a girl standing before someone who truly saw me. "I'm grateful," I whispered. Leaning against the balcony railing, Jeffrey looked up at the night sky. After a pause, he said, "Your strength amazes me. You've been through so much, yet you're still standing." I smiled faintly. Maybe I'm just used to pain. He faced me, serious now. "Don't ever say that again. You weren't made to suffer. You were made to shine." Looking down, I felt the weight of his words, but also their beauty. A gentle breeze lifted my gown and hair. I held them down and laughed softly, feeling a little shy. Jeffrey grinned, a teasing smile playing at the corner of his mouth. "Even the wind agrees you were made to be free." I shook my head, chuckling. "You're weird. Don't forget, I'm cursed." He gave me a wink. "That's just part of the deal," he said. We both laughed, and for the first time since arriving at the mansion, I didn't feel like a prisoner or a stranger. I felt light and free. But that feeling didn't last. Jeffrey's expression grew serious as he stared out at the horizon. "They'll come after you," he whispered. "Maybe your parents, maybe others too. The world has a way of trying to take back what it once rejected." I nodded slowly in response. "Let them come. I'm not the same girl they threw away." There was something deep in his eyes, admiration, respect, maybe something more. "No matter what, I'll protect you," he said with quiet strength. At that moment, I knew. I was doing more than just healing, I was growing. The days that followed were calm and peaceful. The maids spent time showing me around the mansion and teaching me to bake and cook. For the first time, I felt truly welcome. They smiled when I messed up and cheered when I got it right. Jeffrey promised a private tutor would arrive soon to homeschool me. I was filled with excitement. Finally, I was going to learn to read and write. This had always been one of my biggest dreams. It had been 3 days since I last saw Jeffrey, and I kept wondering where he might be and what he was doing. No matter where he was, I hoped he was safe. Bernard sneered. "In this kingdom, no one will ever love you." "You're just a dog," he said as he paced around Jeffrey like a vulture. "Don't get too hopeful about that innocent girl. When she finds out the truth, she'll leave you, and you'll be left crying again." Jeffrey said nothing, his jaw clenched tight. This is your last chance, Bernard warned him. She's the final hope to break your curse. If you fail, you'll be stuck as a dog forever. He leaned in, his voice sharp and cruel. And you know what that means, Bernard said with a cruel grin. I'll be the next king, and you'll serve me forever. But don't worry, big brother. I'll grant you some royal favors. You'll lick my legs every morning, lead the army dogs, and sleep at my feet. Of course, you'll get to eat every crumb that falls from the royal table. Geoffrey didn't respond or move. He hadn't come to listen to Bernard. He was there to speak with his father, the king, about something far more important, and he refused to let Bernard's words distract him. Geoffrey didn't react to Bernard's mocking words. Instead, he kept walking, his long coat sweeping across the marble floor as he passed by and entered the royal chamber. Without a word, the guard stepped aside and opened the tall golden doors, bowing slightly as he entered. As he crossed the threshold, a mix of old books, incense, and cold authority filled his senses. The throne room stretched wide and high, with vaulted ceilings, sparkling chandeliers, and a long red carpet leading to the raised platform where the king sat in silence. His silver crown glinted under the warm lights above. Though his features were aged, the king's presence still carried strong authority. Stopping a short distance from the throne, Geoffrey gave a respectful nod. Father. The king's eyes settled on him, his face unreadable. You're not in any condition to be here, he said, his voice deep and echoing throughout the vast room. That transformation almost destroyed you. Your power is unstable. I didn't have a choice, Geoffrey replied, lifting his gaze. We're running out of time. Leaning back slightly, the king asked, Has the girl accepted you yet? There was a pause. She's starting to care, Geoffrey answered softly. Starting, the king repeated, raising a brow. You're risking everything. If she doesn't fall in love with you for real, the curse becomes permanent. There won't be another opportunity. I understand, Geoffrey said, steady. But I have faith in her. The king stared at him in silence before letting out a heavy breath. Faith alone won't be enough, he warned. You'll need to protect her from what's ahead. Bernard was getting bolder. If she gets hurt before the bond is complete, you'll lose everything, the king warned. I'll protect her, Geoffrey promised, his eyes filled with determination. Whatever it takes. The king gave a slow nod. Then go. But be careful, Bernard's already making moves against you, and not everyone inside your mansion can be trusted. Geoffrey's jaw tightened. Let him try. I won't lose her. Just as he turned to leave, his father called out again. Geoffrey, he said, remember this. The final test is close, and love must survive even when betrayal shows up. Geoffrey's heart pounded as he walked out of the throne room. He didn't know what was waiting for him back at the mansion, but one thing was clear. He wouldn't let anything touch her. Not Evelyn. Not now. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Evelyn was sleeping peacefully, wrapped up in the warmth of her blanket. Outside, the sky was pouring rain, like the heavens were crying. Thunder rolled in the distance, and the wind howled through the trees around the estate. Deep inside the house, something shifted in the shadows. Geoffrey had returned, but the rain had triggered the part of his curse he feared the most. His body began to twist and change. Bones cracked and shifted. In just seconds, the tall, handsome man was gone. In his place stood a big, strong bulldog with sharp blue eyes. There was still a hint of the man inside. This part of the curse was cruel. The rain always triggered it. The only way to stop this storm transformation was through Sexit, was the only thing that could break the spell completely. He had to be with Evelyn in his dog form, but it came at a heavy price. He paced slowly down the hall, breathing hard, his claws clicking softly on the marble floor. His eyes looked toward Evelyn's room, the only person who had ever truly cared for him. He stopped at her door, unsure. Inside, he was fighting a battle. Not tonight, he thought. She wasn't ready. Neither was he. Jeffrey turned away and headed to the mansion's east wing, where no one would see him like this. As lightning lit up the sky, the cursed beast lay silent, waiting, longing, and fighting the storm inside. "If you don't make love to her tonight, you might die in a few days," a voice said. Nathan stood over him. "Remember, this is your last trial, the last chance to break this part of the curse." Nathan held out his hand. "Come, let's go to her. She will accept you." Reluctantly, Jeffrey stood and followed him. They quietly entered the mansion and went straight to Evelyn's room. Nathan knocked softly on the door. It opened almost right away. Evelyn was there, surprised to see them. "Good evening," she said, her eyes wide when she saw Jeffrey in his beast form. He didn't say anything, just walked inside. She turned to follow, but Nathan gently held her arm. "My lady, may I speak with you for a moment?" he asked. "Of course," she said, glancing nervously at Jeffrey. Nathan took a deep breath. "Jeffrey is in terrible pain. If you truly love him, please help him." "This may sound strange," he continued, "but to break this part of the curse, he has to make love to you while he's still in his beast form." Evelyn's eyes grew wide in shock. She whispered, "What?" barely able to believe what she had just heard. Nathan answered firmly, "Yes, please, if you don't do this, he won't survive the next few days. This is the only option." Evelyn's eyes moved to Jeffrey, who sat quietly. His eyes were dull but filled with silent pain and longing. Her heart started racing. She faced a tough choice. Frozen, her breath caught in her throat while her heart pounded. Outside, rain slammed against the windows and thunder rumbled like a warning. Nathan's words echoed, "If you truly love him, this is the only way." Slowly, she glanced back at Jeffrey. He no longer paced or growled, but sat near the fireplace, his large beastly body curled up, as if hiding from shame or fear. She asked softly, "Is he still conscious? Can he feel anything?" Nathan nodded with seriousness. "He feels it all. He thinks like himself. He just can't speak, but he sees you, hears you, and loves you." A tear fell down her cheek. This wasn't the kind of closeness she imagined, not even in her wildest dreams. But she never expected to love a man trapped in so much suffering. A man who risked everything to protect and love her, even while in pain. Turning to Nathan, her voice shook. "Will it hurt him?" "No," Nathan said gently. "It will help him heal." Evelyn nodded slowly, holding the edge of her nightdress. "I need some time alone with him." Nathan bowed and left, closing the door behind him. She moved quietly to Jeffrey, her bare feet soft on the floor. When she reached him, he lifted his head. His golden eyes met hers, full of sadness, desperation, and hope. Kneeling down, Evelyn placed her hand on his thick, furry shoulder. "Zach, if you can hear me, I might not understand everything, but I do know what love is, and I choose all of you." His head lowered, brushing softly against her arm. She ran her fingers gently through his fur and leaned in to whisper, "I'm no longer afraid of you." "Not anymore." Without waiting for fear or fate, she guided him to the bed, where love, sacrifice, and the breaking of a curse were about to happen. What happens in part 2 of this story will leave you in deep shock. Now, go ahead and subscribe to this channel now and turn on notifications so you don't miss part 2 of this story. We've only just begun Evelyn's journey, and what happens next will shock you. Thank you for watching, and search for part 2 on this channel to keep the mystery alive. Catch you in part 2.